Sea of Stars is a remarkable indie RPG that will send you on a roller coaster of emotions and shows us that Sabotage truly knows the heart and soul of our childhood games. The game serves as a prequel to their hit game The Messenger. It takes place thousands of years before The Messenger, so while you will not need to play The Messenger or play Sea of Stars to understand the other, they feel very connected in a lot of cool, intuitive ways, and it's a very interesting decision for them to decide to link up their turn-based RPG to their platforming action game, and it pans out very well. I really like the idea of linking all of your games into a universe to make each game pop on their own, but then they'll bleed into each other. So if you're just really getting invested in the world, which is what happened to me from Sea of Stars, you will want to play the other game, so I am now playing through The Messenger. The narrative in Sea of Stars centers around Zale, Valere, and their adventurous best friend Garl. Zale and Valere are solstice warriors. They were born on the winter solstice and the summer solstice, and as the result, they have powers of the moon and sun. And as solstice warriors, they're basically the chosen warriors to fight dwellers and world eaters, which are these weird amalgamation flesh weirdness developed by the Fleshmancer. Dwellers, if they're left unchecked for too long, eventually become world eaters, and if solstice warriors become fully awakened, they become like god warriors, and so it's like a full cyclical process of the game has a lot of very unexpected twists and turns all throughout. It plays on some classic RPG tropes, but twists them in a nice, fun way to where you're going to be sent on a roller coaster of sadness, happiness, and dread, all for really good reasons, and it just is a really, really well done narrative. The game's visuals are also quite stunning. They have very dynamic lighting, as well as taking a full advantage of as much modern tech as they can, while also making sure that despite all the modern advances and what they're using to develop the game, it still feels like this game would just exist on the Super Nintendo. No doubt it could be on the Super Nintendo almost. So as a result, the game gives you nostalgia feels like the whole way through. It just feels like an old school RPG in so many ways. Exploration in Sea of Stars feels very intuitive and very fun. As you're traveling the world, you'll come across a lot of various areas to jump down, climb up, etc. And then all throughout the game, they're also constantly giving you new mechanics and ways of traversing the world, as well as new puzzle types. Like no puzzle type drew out its stay for too long, and it just keeps going throughout all 30 hours of the game. And then even whenever you get into the full achievements, the 60 hours, which I'm like one achievement away from at the moment, there's still just constantly new puzzles and new things going on, to the point where the exploration does not feel drawn out or bad. It never feels bad. Combat in Sea of Stars is very turn-based RPG, but they have a lot of layers onto it that make it feel more engaging than a normal turn-based RPG. The first layer is that there is active button presses, which means push the button when you get hit or you're going to hit something, and the hit will be stronger or weaker depending on if it's defense or offense. And then also there is a living mana system, which means every time you basic attack, it will drop mana for you to pick up into the character. It infuses the character with a stronger attack. So it's like this whole dynamic of, when do I want to do a normal attack? When do I want to do a normal attack that's infused with mana? And then also when you infuse your normal attacks with mana, the characters will take on elements. These elements are important because of the lock system, which is basically the enemies will start casting a spell, and you have to line up the elements with the chunk of blocks that's on the enemy to get them to stop casting the spell. And these locks start out very basic at first, but then by the end of the game, they're getting very in-depth, and you have to put some very legitimate thought process into how you're manipulating the turn order and who's going to be going after what elements and when, to try and break these very strong spells. They tend to be very, very strong hits. You want to disengage them. And as a result of that, those two systems complement each other very well. And then to top that off, as you break the locks and you land your skills on people, you will earn combo points, which is for your characters. And as you use your combo points, you will unlock ultimate meter, which is ultimate attacks from each of the characters. So the game as a whole, the combat is layered in just such a way where everything complements each other very well, and you will feel like even during downtimes, you're very engaged. The game's soundtrack is also no slouch. It's very, very good. You're gonna find yourself wanting to listen to the soundtrack outside of the game. It is banger after banger. The whole game's soundtrack just breathes so much life and feels very, very good. The soundtrack also feels like it could have existed in the Super Nintendo days, but also like it's taking advantage of a lot of the advancements of current day tech as far as music goes. And the boss fight theme in particular is just, you're going to want to get to those boss fights. You're going to be begging the game to give you boss fights, because when you get into those boss fights, it's just like chef's kiss, just so perfect. It's the best theme ever. Sea of Stars excels in pretty much every area, which makes it really fun to achievement hunt, because since it excels so well everywhere, you want to engage with this game as much as possible. There's a lot of your typical mini games, and then there's even a game inside of the game. It's called Wheels, and it has a lot of fun little dynamics to it. It's not like the most in-depth thing, but it's very fun and engaging to partake in. The game thoroughly rewards exploration as well as interacting with as many things as you can. You will feel constantly rewarded. At times, this can lead it to feel a little frustrating because there are things that you can miss that you feel like you shouldn't have missed, but it's because you didn't interact with that one character in that one town, in that one area. Or, like me, you didn't know, maybe I should be talking to my characters at every campsite or whatever. So there are some little things, but it's kind of a necessary evil to flesh out the world as much as they have. Besides that flaw, the other two flaws for me, which they're very minor, but they did grate on me a little bit, so I feel like bringing them up here, is that for one, there is no way to quick hop out of a dungeon. So if you go through part of a dungeon to get to something that you think you missed, and then you want to quick jump out, from what I could see, there was no way to quick jump out. And then the other minor flaw is that although it has a pretty generous autosave system, there were still instances where I would lose a fight and it restarts you at your last save. So you will lose some progress here and there. It's not as extraneous as old games, but it is there. I did find it moderately annoying at times, but I get what they were going for. Just try and leave as much of the baseline as possible while monitoring. And that's about it for flaws. Like, the game is just so good. Like, even with those flaws, I would almost put it's perfect. The game excels very hardcore at accomplishing its mission statement, Sabotage's mission statement in general, which is to make games that harken back to the games they grew up on, which this game feels like it's just like Chrono Trigger. So this game will like forever be a recommendation from me. There is like no reason that somebody should not play this game. The story is captivating, the music is amazing, the combat feels ridiculously fun with all the little mini games and layers to it. Everything just feels so good about this that I feel like there's something for everyone when you go play this game. And I feel like it's also short enough at only being probably 20 to 30 hours. I spent about 30 on the main story, but I also was chasing everything. And then now it's been 60 chasing achievements, that you're going to want to play the game. You're going to want to give it a shot because the story is so good. It's such a short experience for the most part. It's just the right amount of length that it doesn't feel like it hurts to go ahead and put the investment in. It's an adventure worth savoring. And in conclusion, that means that Sea of Stars is a must-play title that deserves a spot in anybody's game library. At the very least, pay for 1 month of Game Pass to give this game a shot right now. Like right now, because it is that good. You're gonna get drawn into the narrative or the music or the combat or everything like I did, and it is going to make you want to continue. You're going to want to see what the next world looks like. You're going to want to hear the next battle tune. You're going to want to hear the next story beat. You're going to want to see the next character. Like, it's such a good experience. I would say consider purchasing it to support the devs. However, just getting it on Game Pass is just about as good as that. And not to mention, Game Pass is only $10 to $15. And so you could get it done in about a month. It's a cheap, solid investment. There's also a lot of other fun stuff on Game Pass, like Hi-Fi Rush. And that wraps up our Sea of Stars review. If you liked the video, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Leave any comments you want, and be sure to subscribe for more gaming news, and check out the Decade Arcade, which is me going back into games that are 10 years old or older and giving them a review and telling you if they're worth it in the current day and age. I will have some links to some videos in this little end section. Thank you all for watching. Peace out and game on.